People often say the harder you try to feel happy, the less happy you actually become. It's a bit of a cosmic joke, isn't it? We live in a world that is constantly screaming at us to be more, do more, and have more. Your Instagram feed is a never-ending highlight reel of people living their best lives, drinking hard, green juice on a private beach, while apparently running a 7-figure business from their laptop. The message is clear. If you aren't feeling extraordinary every single second of the day, you're doing something wrong. But here's the uncomfortable truth that Mark Manson lays out in his cult classic book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. This obsession with positive vibes is actually making us miserable. We are stuck in what Manson calls the feedback loop from hell, where we feel anxious about being anxious, or guilty about feeling guilty. We've become entitled to a life without pain, and in doing so, we've lost the ability to actually live. This book isn't your typical rah-rah self-help manual. In fact, it's almost an anti-self-help book. Mark Manson argues that the key to a good life isn't about finding ways to care about more things, but rather learning how to care about fewer things and making sure those things actually matter. Think of your attention and your energy as a limited currency. You only have a few F's keys to give in this lifetime. If you go around spending them on every minor inconvenience, like someone cutting you off in traffic or a coworker making a snide comment, you're going to go emotionally bankrupt. You'll be exhausted, bitter, and perpetually offended. The subtle art isn't about being indifferent or apathetic. It's about being comfortable with being different and choosing your battles with surgical precision. One of the most transformative ideas Manson presents is the concept that happiness is a problem. We often treat happiness like a destination, a place we'll finally arrive. At once, we get the promotion, the house, or the perfect partner. But Manson argues that happiness is a constant work in progress. It's the result of solving problems, not avoiding them. If you avoid your problems, you feel miserable. If you feel like you can't solve your problems, you feel miserable. Therefore, the secret isn't to hope for a life without problems, but to hope for a life with better problems. Think about it this way. Imagine you're standing at the base of a massive mountain. Most people look at the peak and say, I want to be there. I want the view, the prestige, and the glory. But very few people actually want the climb. They don't want the sore muscles, the thin air, or the blistering heat. Manson challenges us to stop asking what we want to enjoy and start asking, what pain do I want to sustain? Because everything involves a sacrifice. If you want the beach body, you have to want the hours in the gym and the bland chicken breasts. If you want the successful startup, you have to want the 80-hour work weeks and the constant risk of failure. Your success isn't determined by your desires, but by what you are willing to suffer for. This shift in perspective is a total game changer because it grounds your goals in reality rather than fantasy. As we dive deeper into the core of the book, Manson touches on a nerve that most self-help authors are afraid to mention. You are not special. Now, in the age of participation trophies and everyone is a genius mantras, this sounds almost offensive. But the logic is sound. If everyone is extraordinary, then by definition, no one is. Most of us are pretty average at most things. We might be great at one or two things, but in the vast majority of life's categories, we're just middle of the road. And Manson argues that this is actually okay. The pressure to be extraordinary or world-changing creates a constant state of inadequacy. When we accept our mediocrity, we free ourselves from the pressure of unrealistic expectations. We can stop trying to prove ourselves to the world and start focusing on things that actually bring us fulfillment, even if they don't get a million likes on TikTok. This brings us to one of the most heavy-hitting chapters in the book, the idea of taking 100% responsibility for your life, even when things aren't your fault. Manson uses a brilliant analogy here. Imagine you wake up and there is a newborn baby on your doorstep. It is certainly not your fault that the baby is there. You didn't put it there. You didn't ask for it. But it is now your responsibility. You are the one who has to decide what to do next. You can call the police, you can take it in, or you can ignore it. But whatever you choose, you are responsible for the outcome. Much of our lives is like that. We are dealt cards we didn't ask for. We experience traumas, illnesses, and setbacks that we didn't deserve. While these things aren't our fault, it is our responsibility to manage the emotional aftermath and decide how we move forward. Blaming the world or waiting for an apology that might never come only keeps us trapped in a victim mindset. Taking responsibility is the only way to reclaim your power. However, the subtle art of not giving a fuck isn't just a collection of tough love slogans. It's a critique of our modern value system. Manson suggests that most of our misery comes from measuring our lives against shitty values. If your top values are always being right, feeling good all the time, or being popular, you are setting yourself up for failure. These values are external. They're out of your control, and they don't provide any long-term meaning. Instead, Manson advocates for internal, controllable values like honesty, vulnerability, and self-respect. When you change the yardstick you use to measure success, your entire experience of reality changes. Now, let's look at this through a critical lens. While the book is undeniably impactful, it isn't without its flaws. Some critics argue that Manson's bro-philosophy tone can be a bit dismissive of clinical mental health issues. While choosing your struggle is great advice for a bored office worker, it might feel reductive to someone struggling with severe clinical depression or systemic poverty. There is a fine line between stoic resilience and toxic individualism. Sometimes the problems we face aren't just about our internal values. They are about external systems that need to be changed. Furthermore, the book's heavy reliance on vulgarity for emphasis can sometimes feel like it's trying a bit too hard to be edgy, which might distract some readers from the genuine philosophical depth underneath the surface. It essentially takes ancient Stoic principles and dresses them up in a leather jacket and combat boots for the 21st century. It's effective, but it's not necessarily new. That being said, the transformative core of this book, the reason it has resonated with millions, is its radical honesty. It's a reality check in a world of filters. Manson is essentially giving you permission to fail, permission to be ordinary, and permission to stop caring about things that don't matter. In a culture that is drowning in information but starving for wisdom, this book acts as a lighthouse. It doesn't tell you how to get more. It tells you how to lose what's holding you back. So, what's the final verdict? If you are tired of the just believe in yourself brand of self-help and you want something that feels more like a cold shower than a warm hug, this book is for you. It's specifically for the person who feels overwhelmed by the expectations of modern life and needs a framework to help them prioritize their mental energy. If you want an actionable step you can take today, try this. Audit your fucks. Take a piece of paper and write down 3 things you've been worrying about lately that, in the grand scheme of your life, actually don't matter. Maybe it's a comment someone made on social media, or the fact that you're not as far along in your career as someone you went to high school with. Now, consciously decide to revoke your care from those things. Decide that they are no longer worthy of your limited emotional currency. Instead, redirect that energy toward one better problem, something difficult but meaningful that you actually want to solve. The subtle art of not giving a fuck reminds us that we are all going to die one day, and that's the ultimate filter. When you realize that your time is finite, the trivialities of daily life start to melt away. You realize that you don't have time to care about everything. You only have time to care about what is true, what is beautiful, and what is important to you. Thank for staying on this chapter to the end. If you found this breakdown helpful, and you want to join us as we explore the most influential books and ideas shaping our world today, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes. Until next time, choose your struggles wisely, and remember, it's not about not giving a fuck about anything. It's about giving a fuck about what truly matters.